What is going on, my super sandwiches? Rhymestyle here, and today I'm joined the legend, the myth, the one and only Qaaman.
Alrighty guys, it is Qaaman here today, and I'm bringing you another Dragon Ball Z segment with Rhymestyle on how rich is Goku's family. Now, they may sound like a very ambiguous topic, but we definitely think we have some facts to back it up. So without wasting any more time, let's get straight into this video. So Rhymestyle, what do you have to say about Goku's wealth?
Well, it's actually funny because everybody sees Goku as a hero, but no one's ever questioned how much money he has. Like, oh, well, you know, Bulma's rich, Goku's got rich too, he saves the universe all the freaking time. It's actually funny because Goku is broke. Like, he's really broke. And if we look at the end of Dragon Ball Z, we see Gohan at that point is becoming a scholar. He becomes a researcher or teacher or scientist, whatever. Many different things happen, I guess. At the end of Dragon Ball Z, he's becoming a scholar / researcher. And then in if we use GT for timeline purposes of knowing what Gohan does in the future, he is working with Bulma as a scientist type of thing. And also, if we're going to use another universe timeline, in Dragon Ball Online, he is also seen as a researcher because you see him write that book about how Ki works. So with that said, we know that Gohan essentially is kind of the moneymaker in the family later. Like, he basically goes to school because, I mean, we see Chi-Chi put him through crazy tutoring, which is, question is how the hell did they afford it? So with that said, how rich is Goku's family? So let's break it down. All right, Qaaman, what do you have for us?
Well, the first thing I wanted to talk about is what is, obviously the most clear-cut thing we have of evidence from the Yo-Son Goku and his friends return special, which some are not going to deem canon, some will, because you can argue that Battle of Gods carries Tarbell off as an actual character. But regardless of
and it also fits the timeline because it happens technically after Dragon Ball Z ends, so it's like something that's only really questionable as canon or not really if it doesn't fit in a timeline anymore. I would say. I mean, you could argue that it's canon only if Toriyama says so, but then again, we have manga canon, we have anime canon, and technically this kind of will be canon because again, Goku. Toriyama mentions Tarbell as a character. He writes Tarbell into a character into Battle of Gods, which is a canon movie. So it's like, well, if Tarbell was introduced in Yo-Son Goku Returns, this happens after Dragon Ball Z ends, then in a way, this special might be canon. But the interesting thing about this movie is it's revealed that around then, Goku and Chi-Chi become radish farmers, which is actually funny because we're going off the whole vegetable theme, and they're planting radishes. They become radish farmers, which we know makes about 10 to 20K a year, which is not that much. But because of the land that they live in, they probably have very rich, I'd say soil or whatever. Basically, a very nice area to farm. And because of that, we probably place Goku and Chi-Chi as top-tier radish farmers, which, again, is not that much. It's just barely over the poverty line. Right. But the question is if we're going to go back, and what did basically Goku and Chi-Chi do for the, I guess, first 18 years of their marriage? That's the big question. And, well, Qaaman, do you want to take that one?
Well, yes. Well, we know for sure from Dragon Ball that when Goku in the 23rd World Martial Arts Tournament, the one he actually won against Piccolo Jr., he actually won 500,000 Zeni, if that's the correct number. I'm pretty sure it's 500,000 Zeni. And a lot of people make jokes about that, saying how will that carry out throughout the years. But when you consider it, the type of lifestyle that Goku's family has, with the exception of food, you can argue that they don't have a very, very high standard of living as compared to others. So I definitely think that the money that Goku made can carry over. Now, obviously Goku eats a lot, so you have to factor that out. But Rhymestyle, I actually thought about this. Something we didn't mention off the air is that Goku was dead for a lot of those years that the money carried over, because you remember Dragon Ball Z only takes place 5 years after the end of Dragon Ball. I'm 99% sure it's 5 years. So if Dragon Ball Z takes place 5 years after the events of Dragon Ball, Goku's obviously alive for that point. Then, when Goku died against Raditz, and then, the whole thing with Namek and all of that, that's a lot of time that Goku's not home. So really, that money could have been well invested into, taking care of their needs.
Well, what I see that as is remember, Chi-Chi did hire the top tier tutors to teach Gohan, which must have been a lot of money because remember they lived in the middle of nowhere.
Sure.
Middle of nowhere. So
That-
they must have paid a lot of money to get the best tutors to come every single weekend or every day or whatever it was. And on top of that, when he grows up, he also goes in high school, which is pretty far away, and it was pretty like a rich part, of the city. So they must have shelled out a lot more money for Gohan's education than actually food overall. Because to go to school is pretty expensive.
Well, I will say really quickly that that was filler, but I definitely see your point. They definitely had to pay a lot of money to afford, tutors. Because even though it was filler, we can assume that Gohan definitely had tutors, and especially with the Orange Star High School, because essentially Gohan's commuting. So that's a lot of distance, and if that's a school that Videl goes to, you gotta assume that why would Hercule, have his child in a mediocre school?
Yep.
And why would Chi-Chi send Gohan to a mediocre school? So it's assumed, that Orange Star High School is very, prestigious, even though it wasn't really exaggerated in the series. So with that exception, that shows that, Goku and Chi-Chi obviously have a lot more money than what we would expect. Now, I do want to point out that Chi-Chi has said in Dragon Ball Z, and I've been looking for so long to find exactly what point it was. Can somebody mention me in the comment? But she said for sure that she's sick and tired of asking her dad, Ox King, for money. And Rhymestyle and I thought about it, and we realized that Ox King has a lot more money than, we think he does, because considering the fact that in Dragon Ball, you remember his castle burned down, and he actually got another one. And
Twice.
Exactly. So to get another castle, it costs significant money. And, in the area he lived in, there was lots of jewelry and stuff, and a lot of treasures. So Ox King was a lot wealthier than what we would expect him to be. Now, what I also wanted to point out is you also got to consider a lot of the other friends that Goku has. Now, you wanted to talk more about, Goku's actual friends in terms of their monetary power, Rhymestyle?
Yeah, because I want to mention, because again, this goes back to the whole, idea of seeing these guys as heroes. But end of the day, they have regular ass jobs. When you become a superhero, you don't get, like a random paycheck every 2 weeks. Like, hey, thanks for saving the universe. Here's your money. Looking at Krillin, for example, Krillin has been confirmed to be a police officer in this upcoming Dragon Ball Z movie. So it's like even Krillin is, struggling for money, which is funny because he had his, I guess the extortion we can save with Android 18
and Hercule, yeah.
Yeah, so it's like even they're running out of money. So it's like, what do these people like? Why can't these people get paid for saving the universe? Now, something else I want to point out is Yamcha, which is funny because Yamcha is the most useless character in the entire series. Yamcha might actually be the most useful, second most useful when it comes down to money, because he was a baseball player.
Exactly.
And I say second to Bulma, because Bulma is obviously the richest woman on Earth. In terms of money, like Yamcha is probably the second most set character in the series.
Right, that's true. And, I also wanted to point out another thing, even though it was also filler, to support this a little bit more, they did buy a car, and, cars aren't cheap. You gotta have some form of money to afford a car. So I think when you factor in all of the different things, like Gohan going to school, the extortion of Goku having rich friends, that's another thing. If they ever really needed money, they have Bulma, who can give them like a penny that's worth like millions of zenny. So, when you factor in all of that, I think that the series makes it seem as if, Chi-Chi and Goku are a lot poorer than what we would expect. But when you actually consider the quality of their life and their very low standard of living, since they basically live in the middle of nowhere, I'm sure we can both agree that the series obviously hints that they have a lot more money than what we'd expect, especially Gohan.
Yeah, well, the way I see it is this. So, Goku wins the 23rd World Martial Arts Tournament and gets 500,000 zenny. The next time we see them was, I believe, was a 25th tournament, right? That was 7 years after Boo, right? After Self, correct?
Yes.
And around then, that's when we start running out of money. So between the 23rd World Tournament and the 25th, they must have blown through that 500,000 zenny.
That's
but
true.
the thing is, even though we know that Chi-Chi can ask the Ox King, both Goku and Chi-Chi can also ask Bulma for money or even do something to make money. We know that they don't. We know that it still goes back to the whole pride thing, where it's like we don't want to accept help, while we can still do it on our own. Which is why we see using this Son Goku Returns movie as a special. We see them become radish farmers to kind of support their lifestyle at the end of the series. So, in our reality, even though they kind of seem to have money, they don't really have any money. Because at the end of the day, at the end of the series, according to that movie, they're only making roughly about 10 to 20 grand a year, which is not that much. But then again, considering the fact that they don't have any bills, they own the house they live in, they have, pretty much no electricity or nothing.
No taxes too.
No taxes, no nothing. 10 to 20 grand a year is I guess, is livable. It's enough to feed both Goku, Gohan, and Goten. So I'd say it's not that bad.
Well, one more final point that I wanted to bring up when you factor this all in is that when you look at Oob, remember at the end of the series that Oob was talking about, how he wanted to, support his family. That's why he joined the whole tournament, and Goku's like, oh, well, don't worry, Hercule has plenty of money, and, he didn't mention Bulma, but obviously she does too. So that kind of was, I guess you could say, the closest to a hint that maybe Goku kind of indirectly admitted that, Bulma and Hercule were somewhat supporting them to some degree, because you remember, Gohan did marry Videl.
Yeah, that's true. That is definitely true.
So, I mean, by the end of Z, Goku's family's way more, way above average in terms of their lifestyle, in terms of income. So, I mean, and look at Vegeta too. I mean, he's a Saiyan prince. You think he would, marry a poor woman? I mean,
Vegeta's chilling. Vegeta's eating like a king.
But how much do you think that equipment that he trains with is worth? I'm sure it's not cheap.
That's probably why he married Bulma out of anybody.
Exactly.
You got money, Bulma. All right, let's do this. Like, it makes a lot of sense now. But it's funny because this is a random topic. Like, I mean, usually we're talking about, fights and, like, Kaioken was a Super Saiyan, and all of a sudden now we're talking about money. And the reason why I decided to do this conversation in the first place is because it's kind of a topic that people don't really think about. I mean, think about it. Like, between Dragon Ball all the way to basically, even if you want to count GT, even in GT, we never see any of these guys work once. So it's like, how the hell are these people surviving? Like, do they just get free money? And I guess that kind of gives you a hint to know how wealthy both Goku and his family are, as well as the rest of the Z fighters. Well, other than Bulma, we know Bulma's rich. I mean, she was giving away like $1 million and castles at her birthday.
Exactly. I always found that always funny. Like, if you ever really need money, just ask Bulma. She won't feel it.
Yeah, exactly. But then again, this is Goku we're talking about. He does not accept, stuff like that. Like, again, this goes back to the whole, hey, we're radish farmers. We're gonna do it on our own. We don't need your help just because we rather earn it on our own. Because I mean, that's Goku's character. It's always been his character.
But I mean, you got to consider. I mean, he was essentially dead for a lot of those years. But I know we're approaching the end.
Easy for him.
I know we're approaching the end of this video, but I really wanted to point this out to a lot of our viewers here. I want to know if you guys look at the whole situation. How much money do you actually think Goku and the rest of the Z fighters are worth in terms of saving the world? I mean, if Goku was a bad guy, do you realize that he could be as wealthy, even more wealthy than the Bulma's family? He could say, listen, I've been saving this world since I was a kid, alright? I deserve to have at least 10 quadrillion dollars. And they could be like, well, what do you mean? Well, this whole planet would be destroyed if it wasn't for me. So I always felt that, what Goku's done is essentially priceless for society.
Yep, 100%. 100%. With that said, guys, if you got this far in the video, let us know your own thoughts on the rest of the Z fighters in terms of what you think what they should be monetarily, and of course, if you had fun, if you enjoyed this quick fun fact about the Goku family, make sure you punch that like button right in the face. Check out Qaaman and vice versa. If you're on his channel, come over here, and yeah, we'll take it from there. You got anything else to say?
Yes, Rhymestyle, of course. You're gonna ask me if I have anything else to say, because this is my final words.
Final words.
Please remember.
Yes.
To rate, comment, and subscribe.
Okay, I will.
And remember, as I always say.
Okay, what do you always say?
In every single video.
In every single video.
To have.
Have what?
A great day, guys.
Oh, okay, I will do that.
See you, everyone.
Peace.